In part 1 of this short video series, I showed you how a dungeon master can get started running a Spelljammer campaign using official 5th edition rules for ships and helms from Ghosts of Saltmarsh and Dungeon of the Mad Mage. So now it's time for part 2. Oh boy! First of all, any playable race published in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition is appropriate for a Spelljammer campaign. If a race exists in a D&D world, then a member of that race could somehow find their way into wild space. That's just how the setting is meant to work. But that also covers a lot. So for this video, we'll just be discussing those races which are given mechanics in both the original Spelljammer books and the current 5th edition books. Although I kinda got to thinking about tieflings in wild space and had some fun ideas that I kinda wanna put in their own video. So let's look forward to that too. It probably doesn't need to be said, but the most common playable races in Spelljammer are the core races from the player's handbook. Originally, these were the humans, the dwarves, the elves, the gnomes, and the halflings. And of course, these 5 races also appear in the 5th edition player's handbook and can be used in a Spelljammer campaign without making any changes to their mechanics. Of the many sub-races, the ones which would be most common in a stock standard Spelljammer campaign are going to be the High Elves of the Elven Imperial Navy and Rock Gnomes, which are called Tinker Gnomes in Wild Space. And that's all you need for the core races. Easy and done. Next up are your supplementary races, those playable races which show up in supplements rather than core books. The playable supplementary races in Classic Spelljammer, who also appear in 5th edition, are the Lizardfolk, the Skrow, who are space orcs with a rigid military culture and a general distaste for elves due to the events of an ancient war between their people and the always iconic Gith. I'm also going to include the Gith in this video, even though they weren't playable in 2nd edition Spelljammer, because they are playable in 5th edition, and I think they add a lot. The first 2 supplementary races can be found in Volo's Guide to Monsters. These are the Lizardfolk and the Skrow. The Lizardfolk are right there on page 111, while the Orcs can be found on page 120. The only change you may want to make is removing the intelligence penalty from the Orc stats, because the Skrow are meant to be specifically smart. The next 2 races are the Gith and the Gith, and both of these can be found in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. The Gith of Classic Spelljammer are known as the Pirates of Gith, and technically count as a 3rd Gith subrace. Although the 5e Githyanki stats will suffice for them, since the only difference between them and the Githyanki is that they never went to the astral plane, despite somehow having the ability to make spelljamming ships shift into the astral plane. And finally, we come to the Gith, the great hippomen of space, whose identities seem to have been forged in the crucible of the Great War. Ha ha ha! Quite! The Gith require a little more creativity than the other races, but nothing that I would call homebrew, because the rules we are going to use all exist in official books. We start with the monster block for the non-playable version of the Gith, and we use that as the basis for a playable lineage as described on page 8 in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Just give the Gith a +2 to their strength ability score. Then give them proficiency in the athletics skill to reflect their physical might and their general military culture. After that, give them the Gunner feat from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything to duplicate the firearms knowledge ability from their monster block. Finally, add proficiency in the Common and Gith languages. These playable Gith won't have the cool headfirst charge ability, but you could make it a racial feat because many of the special abilities on monster blocks are basically feats themselves. There you go, the playable races of Spelljammer for a 5th edition campaign, which I hope you found helpful because I have always loved the setting, and seeing so much interest in Spelljammer online has been really super exciting for me as a fan. And I think I'm going to make a few more videos as part of this instructional series, so backgrounds and classes will be coming up next. If those sound like videos you want to see, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss them, and we can continue geeking out over Spelljammer together. Until next time, I'll see you in Wild Space.